Hey there, how you doing? Dave Allred from barpatrol.net. In today's video, I'm speaking with Matt Plapp, one of the bar and restaurant industry experts on marketing, and he invited me on his show where we talk about management, leadership, culture, bartender theft, and why Matt is always so damn orange. Okay, so are you ready? I said, are you ready? Because we're starting right now.
What's up? It's Matt Plapp, and no, we're not at a nightclub. We're at a gym, and apparently they decided to turn the music up. I am here with another restaurant expert roundup. Dave Allred, how are you?
Great. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. So like I said, ignore the music in the back a little. I'm at the gym, and I guess they decided to crank it up really quick. So imagine you're in a bar, because that's where we're at, right?
Yeah, we'll get you in the mood.
So reason I wanted to talk to you, I guess we'll get into kind of your background real quick. The reason I want to talk to you is I think one of the biggest miscomponents in the restaurant business is bartenders that are worth a crap. I've met some really great ones. I've met some others that are like, hey, what do you want? Okay, hand it to you. And I know it's a skill because I've got friends of mine that are bartenders, and it's a skill, and it's a huge opportunity for restaurants and for bars and places that serve alcohol to make a lot more margin and also lose a lot of margin. So tell us who you are, tell us about you, and then we'll go from there.
Well, it's interesting you start there. So that's exactly, I've been in the industry for 30 years, and I did about 15 years of bartending. I've bar managed, I've run bars. I've started my own business now, but starting right from the bartending perspective, it's actually why I started Bar Patrol, which is my inventory management company, is I bartended for years. And starting right off from the bartender, conformity is contagious is what I always say. And it's just so common in the industry for bartenders to figure that it's their bar and they can do whatever they want. So they're giving away drinks, they're hooking up their friends because the bars down the street are doing it. And when they go out after work, those bartenders are hooking them up. So they figure that's just the way it is. And I won't say that I'm innocent, right? I did it when I bartended as well. It's just getting caught up in the way the industry works. So in 2010, 2011, I started Bar Patrol. I was kind of in an area where I was done kind of living that nightlife, right? Because a lot of us in the industry, we don't want to sit at a desk. We don't want to do just the normal 9 to 5, which is why we get into serving and bartending and that sort of industry, is we just need to be up and moving. We like the fast pace. But I was working nights. My wife was a school teacher. She was working in the day. I never saw her. I didn't see my kids. It got to a point where I kind of hit rock bottom because I couldn't find anything else to do. We're not trained to do anything else once you get into that bar and restaurant industry. So to make a long story short, I tried a bunch of different things. I did basketball trainings because I played basketball in college. I started a tutoring program because my entire family is involved in education, but I just didn't love it. And finally, my wife found this company called Bev & Co., which you may have heard of, but they're one of the longest running inventory management companies. And they would go into bars and restaurants and weigh the bottles and figure their inventory and show them how much they were losing because of the bartender overpours. And so I said, hey, I can do that. So I did. I started it then, unknowing how difficult it is to start a business and get it going for the long haul. But I ended up walking into hundreds of bars in the San Francisco Bay Area, asking them if I could take inventory for them. I eventually landed a lot of accounts, and I ran an inventory management company business as an auditor, just taking inventory for them and saving them thousands of dollars. Now, bartenders didn't like me, but the truth is I would hold a meeting when I would do this inventory management for a company, and I would tell them, hey, these are the standards we're doing now. And most of them, tell you the truth, would jump on board. They would still make their money, right? And there's a place to give away free stuff to your customers. I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but I'm saying when you leave it to the devices of the bartenders, they're going to take an inch and make it into 10 miles. They're going to do whatever they want. And the variance ends up being you're losing 25% of your products instead of having your variance around that 7-8% range where you're giving stuff away, but you're controlling what it does to make your guests happy. So if you leave it to the bartenders, they're going to run rampant. So now I've created an inventory app in the last few years, which other bar owners and managers can use to take their inventory, track those losses, count quickly, do their ordering. We're in like 41 countries now. We're across the nation. So that's kind of how I reach people now. I've moved online instead of walking into bars anymore. So that's my long-winded answer for kind of how I got here.
Well, no, I love it because you're right. There is a place in the restaurant and the bar business to give away something to somebody to make the environment better, to make a customer happy, to make the atmosphere better. But at the same time, if you leave it up to the person with slippery fingers, it might be given out. Plus, they might not be getting anything in return. I'm a big proponent of, if I'm going to give somebody something, I want something back, from a standpoint of either loyalty or an email or a phone number or something. But I guess talk one about inventory control. What are some of the top issues you've seen that have cost a lot of bars money? Because I've seen it. I've got a client of mine that, one of my first restaurant clients, their brewery, they had 3 locations. They had a 1,000-person brewery beer hall, and they had cameras everywhere. And I'll never forget the one time I was sitting there like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm watching this bartender over pour. And it ended up being a person that habitually double poured for friends, and that led to her not being there anymore. But talk about some of the biggest things you've seen that are hurting restaurants, bars, and then what they can do to fix it.
Well, it's true. And, the cameras are great. And the problem with the cameras is you have to sit there and watch them all the time. But they definitely help as far as keeping an eye on the bartenders. And the truth is it's funny that if the bartenders know they're being watched, it's magic how the variance just shrinks down. And they did a study. I can't remember the name of the university that did this study, but they literally went into a cafeteria at this college and found out that nobody threw their trash away, or like 75% of the people would just leave their trash on the table. And they put posters of eyes on the wall. Just posters is all they did. And just having those up there, the psychological effect, it ended up being like 70% more people would throw their trash away. Just the thought of having those eyes up there, which came to the conclusion of people will act in a more responsible way if they think someone's watching them, right? You're not going to throw trash on the ground in a public place, although you might do it by yourself in the dark or something. So that was a really interesting thing. So the cameras do help. The problem is you have to sit there and monitor them all the time. So having a good inventory management system allows you to count your inventory and kind of monitor your bartenders that way, and they know you're kind of watching them. The other thing, though, is to make sure that you get them on board. Like I said, you don't want to just be like, you're bad, bad, bad. Bartenders are good people. They're just caught up in what they're doing with everyone else. So if you sit them down, say, hey, we really want to get the variance down here, just ask me if you want to give away a free drink. I'm happy to do it. If you can get them on board with you, the whole idea is to become a team and not make it us against you because you're so bad you're giving away stuff. But what blew me away when I first started and I was walking into bars is I walked into a bar in San Francisco, this Greek bar, and this is just so common, is it's not just the bartenders. There's so many managers and owners who are caught up in this whole conformity of this is just the way it is. And I remember talking to the GM at this Greek restaurant. It was a busy place. I think they were doing like 10 million a year. And I said, hey, I have this inventory management system. It's going to track your pours, see how the bartenders are pouring. And she said, yeah, we don't really want anything like that because the bartenders wouldn't like it if we monitored them and tracked what they were doing. They've been here a long time. They wouldn't like that. And I was like, all right, wait, what? Like, you're just going to, of course they wouldn't like it if you tracked their embezzlement from the company. Yeah, nobody would like that when they're making all that money. So stuff like that.
Could you imagine that at a bank?
What's that?
Could you imagine that example at a bank that tellers aren't monitored? Like,
that's exactly it.
We trust what's
it is. There. And like the retail business, their variance is like 2 to 3% because they have all these systems in place. It doesn't happen, but it happens in the bar industry. So it's not just the bartenders, it's the bar owners and managers kind of, buying into it's okay to be a boss and monitor your bartenders. It's your place. It's not their place. And you can still make them happy. They'll still make money. It's not that big a deal. But, there's 3 big areas I see when you're running a bar and restaurant because there's so many details in running it. It can be overwhelming. But you have to market, which is your big expertise, right? You got to get sales and you got to get people in there. Grant Cardone, who a lot of people may not like, he's kind of crazy, but his biggest thing is obscurity is your biggest enemy, right? You can have the greatest place in the world. If people don't know about you, forget about it, right? So your big thing is marketing. That's your big area of expertise. Get in there, get some sales in there. And then the next thing is you need to provide a great experience, right? Because you got to get repeat customers to get them to come back. And then you've got to protect the money that you have. And that comes into the business side of it, where you need to do accounting and daily sales and do your inventory management, do your ordering, do your item and recipe costing. So you have to do those things to protect that money. And in the case of like that Greek restaurant, they're doing $10 million a year, but volume hides a multitude of sins. So even though it just seems like you're doing great because you have those sales, if you don't protect that money, you can be losing an extra $1 million because you're not doing all the small things on the business side to protect that money. So those are kind of those 3 stages you really have to be aware of.
Yeah, market, obviously, you got to tell people. I told somebody the other day, I'm like, if you can have the greatest thing in the world, if nobody knows you exist, who cares? And that experience too. I mean, I've got restaurants that I like the food, but the experience isn't there. It's dirty. My wife and kids don't want to go. The servers are rude. And then at the end of the day, like you said there, protect your money. I've seen very good businesses go out of business because somebody was stealing money. And nobody likes to really look at the bartender over pouring or doing this or doing that as stealing. And they probably aren't doing it intentionally. They more likely aren't. They're trying to make it a better place. But they don't understand. It's like a friend of mine, this was going back about 3 years ago. We were talking about actual theft in the restaurant, and this one was actual theft. And he said, yeah, Matt, it was wild. Because I asked him how he caught it. He said, well, I called my food rep, and I was trying to figure out why my steak prices went up so much the past month. He's like, your steak price haven't changed in like 4 months. He's like, well, my food costs through the roof. And he started examining it, and it wasn't his food cost, it was his use. And he starts comparing what he sold to what was bought, and it was different. And so he couldn't figure it out. He's looking everywhere. He's watching cameras. Well, one day he's smoking a cigarette. This is where it came up. He goes, Matt, smoking saved the restaurant a bunch of money because we always give him crap for smoking. Yeah. And he's like, I'm out back smoking, and I noticed the bar back go out of the restaurant, take the garbage bag to the garbage, and puts it next to the dumpster. And I'm like, what a lazy. Well, put it in the dumpster. He walks by me. I don't say anything to him, so I walk over to put the garbage in the dumpster, and it feels weird. It was a little awkward. I look, it's my steaks.
Oh my
and this
God.
guy, every couple of days apparently, was helping himself to a bunch of steaks, and they were selling them, him and his friends. So that's a direct not protecting your money. That's theft, but the bar side's a little different. And I don't think that the bartenders I've seen do it, they're not doing it for the crazy wrong reasons like that. They're just don't understand how to use it correctly.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that about the steaks. It all seems like it's the steaks, right? Those are the easiest things to take home and feed your family with, right? No one's like stealing flour or, like some canned peaches. It's always the steaks. And people always ask me, how do I track my bartender pours without taking inventory every day? I'm just way too busy to count a 2-hour inventory. So I recommend counting the inventory once per week, right? You need that full thing. Plus you got to do your ordering off your inventory, but do spot checks during the week without the bartenders knowing. It takes you like 5-10 minutes to count like 5 or 10 of your most, highest pouring products, and then count it before the shift, after the shift, when Joe's like pouring on a Tuesday night. And then you can sit down with them and run a variance report and say, hey, Joe, I love you, but you rang in 10 shots of Jack, but you poured 19 shots. What the hell's going on? This is what we need to do. As soon as he knows he's being watched, and like you said, he may be unaware, like, holy cow, I didn't know I was pouring that heavy. But you can do the same thing with like your steaks, because those things are so popular. So you could literally, because with Bar Patrol, you can count food as well. So you can get in there and count your steaks before the shift and after the shift and say, hey, we're 6 steaks short. What's going on? Jim back here in the kitchen, go check your garbage, like you said. So spot checking makes it so, inventory can be overwhelming, but spot checking kind of keeps them honest and takes you a lot less time.
Okay, so question about maybe the bartender side. I know you've got your book, How to Become a Bartender, on Amazon, and it's obviously a book for bartenders, how to get hired, how to become better. Do you have any resources that you can have, that restaurants and bars can have to train their people better, to help them become better bartenders?
I do. So I wrote that book in 2011, I believe. I've turned it into a course since then, and I've had over 10,000 students go through the bartender course. Wow. People without experience can go sign up for that, because it's tough to break into the bar business. So I kind of lay out a plan for that. I since have 2 other courses right now. One's on how to become a bar inventory auditor, which is how I started out, right? How to walk into bars, tell them you'll take inventory for them and save them a ton of money so they don't have to do it. And then my most recent course is the Restaurant Management Masterclass, which breaks down different categories on how to systemize your restaurant through, hiring well, training your staff. There's some marketing in there. inventory management. There's a finance section on how to do your finances. So different areas on how to systemize each section of your bar. So when you come in each day, you're not just kind of winging it. So that kind of helps you run a really successful bar and restaurant. That's actually, well, if you go to barpatrol.net and go to the resources and courses tab, you can find those courses there. I actually have the management class at 50% off right now during COVID, just kind of help people out. So it's normally $1,000. It's on sale for $497 right now if anyone's interested. And this is the time really to learn. I bought courses myself right now on how to do these things. Actually, if you go, to go to barpatrol.net instead of The Real Barman. I bought courses of my own to learn right now. This is what I'm doing. Everyone kind of has some downtime. This is the time to learn and get those things going. So yeah, courses and resources up top. There's the Restaurant Masterclass and all the other ones on there. That one's coming soon. Business plan.
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest missed opportunities for restaurateurs. Is I don't think enough of them provide resources like this. Like for me, for example, like you mentioned, we're advertising marketing. There's a guy named Billy Jean out in California I've worked with since 2016. My team all has access to his trainings to make them better at Facebook ads or text or emails or Instagram, YouTube. Just like restaurants need to provide resources like this to their bartenders to help them become better at what they do.
It's so important. And that's barpatrol.net. I have therealbarman.com, which I told you earlier was mainly for bartenders, but I'm turning it into a resource guide for all things bar and restaurant. And we just started putting some content on there. So it's a little light right now, but in the next 6 months, we're going to be loading up a ton of free resources on there just to help people succeed in any way they can. So that's coming. So you guys can check back there periodically, and the blog posts and the videos are just going to stack up. And I know you're kind of doing the same thing, Matt. You're getting a bunch of content out just to help for free, just doing these live things like this and all your blog posts. I've checked out your stuff. It's just really good. And, both of us, I kind of think, give about 90% of our information away for free. And then, right, you want the real premium stuff, you can pay for it and all that. But helping people is just a huge satisfaction in this industry. And then, of course, we have to make a living from it too. So we sell the premium stuff, but just helping people in general is great in an industry that we've been in so long.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when I reached out to you from your book and from researching you, I love to see people in the industry that came from it. That, like me, I didn't come from the restaurant business. I'm a marketing guy, but I worked hand in hand with 9 restaurants, 6 of them really in depth for 7 years, where I was stuck in meetings about lawsuits and everything. So I got to hear and see it all. And that's what really made me realize what was going to be important from a marketing standpoint. But guys like you are the people that can help. I mean, restaurants, it's profits elusive, as I always say. My podcast, MPTV, making profits, what I always talk about. A lot of people don't realize the MP and the screens, my fist bump is my initials. Yeah. But making profit, I always say profit's elusive. And it becomes elusive because, like you said, you're not protecting your money at the bar. You're not protecting your inventory. You might be spending money. I ran across a company the other day that was spending money on 3 email softwares, email marketing. They're using one of them, but they had 3. Yeah. And I'm like, it might not be a big deal, but one's 75, one's 49, one's 100. You're not using all 3. I mean, you can those dollars add up. It's a big. They
do. Well, maybe you weren't starting off in the restaurant industry, but a lot of that stuff transfers over. It's nice to come from the trenches. There's a lot of stuff that I've learned that I know through that, but a lot of that stuff transfers over. And a lot of the questions I get from owners and managers is, how do I just be a leader and lead my staff, which is universal anywhere, right? And I just tell them, I always try to keep things simple because there's so much that you have to learn. But if you just come in with enthusiasm every day, just unbridled enthusiasm, and we're always talking about culture, the culture of the restaurant, how do we create a culture? And most of the time people think it's just a canned message that says kind of what we do. But if you'll just come in and be caring and unselfish, get to know your staff and say, whether they like rock music or movies or sports, ask them how they're doing each day. How are your kids? How's the family? How's your boyfriend, girlfriend? and make them feel like they're part of a team, and then just ask them, hey, what can I do for you? All right, now what can I do for you? And have that spill over and be contagious for the guests. All right, just being unselfish and caring and unbridled enthusiasm every day is how you lead, because you lead by example. If you'll just come in and do that, it's amazing. And they'll also ask me, how do I provide the perfect customer service? And I have like a 10-step customer service plan. It's in a system, right? And greeting them and all that. But I came across another interesting study from Cornell University years ago. And it was so interesting because they had like 1,000 people they tested, and they sent them into a restaurant to see how their experience was. It was like a 90-minute experience, and they served them, and then they'd ask them questions afterwards about what was good and what was bad. And the interesting thing about the study is 40% of their overall satisfaction was based on like 2 or 3 minutes of their entire experience there. And it had to do with how quickly they were greeted, how quickly they got and had their drinks refilled, and how quickly they got the check when they left. All right. People hate to wait in this day and age. And I tell people, if you'll just be fast and get to them, if you're swamped, say, hey, how you doing? Sit down. Hey, I'll be all right with you. That's all they need to be greeted. You know, when you go in and you're sitting there for 10 minutes and no one greets you, it is awful. And, 3% of their 90-minute experience was based on those, that 2.5 minutes. So I always tell people, you want customer service? Just greet people and be there for them and refill their drinks and clear their plates and just kind of show your face all the time, and they'll be happy. Obviously, you need to be friendly and smile and all that. That's obvious stuff that everyone needs to know. But that timing issue is everything to people, you realize.
Yeah, it's comical you say that, because me and my wife and family, we eat out a lot. We rarely, our cooking in our house is a DiGiorno or maybe like a waffle in the oven and the toaster, but we eat out a lot. And I always tell my wife, I'm like, part of me, we do that intentionally because, one, we don't know how to cook that well, but two, my industry, I like to go to a lot of restaurants and observe. And I'm like, man, us as consumers are terrible people. And I include me, because you hit the nail on the head. Like the server, we might be 2 or 3 minutes to get seated. We're like, Jesus, man, this place is slow. Where's everybody at? And then you get seated and the server doesn't come by and get your drink order for a couple minutes, but you get your chips and salsa or something, and we're complaining. But then when the server comes back to actually take our order, we're on our damn phone. We're like, oh, we haven't looked yet. And exactly. If you look at the whole process, it's like, and that's why I've told my wife, we talk about this because my kids, I explain business to my son who's 16 and my daughter's in college now, but I'll explain things to him like, look at the delays we cause. Like, we're here for an hour. Yeah. And of that hour, we're mad over a couple minutes. And you hit nail on the head that people remember that. It's like the customers I deal with. We were in Arkansas with a brand we work with called Eureka Pizza. He's got 10 locations. And we do a lot of marketing for him. And the couple of managers were highlighting some negative customers. And I'm like, you're talking about a handful of people that did this that you don't like, but not the 500 who did this you love. We only remember those 5.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? And it's first world problems, right? People are having their heads chopped off in other societies, and we're worried about, not getting our chips and salsa in a couple minutes. And, and I will say, coming from the bar and restaurant industry, no one bitches more than servers and bartenders about customers. So I get it. Customers can be difficult, but I tell them, just do your job. They're paying for an experience. They worked all day. They're coming here for an experience. That's what they paid for. The difficult ones are going to be difficult no matter what. The worst when I was a bartender was the snappers, right? They'd snap down there when you're 3 deep, or like you said, they'd finally, you get down there and they'd be waving. You get down there and be like, "What are you having?" And then they'd ask the 5 people behind you, "Okay, what do we have in here?" They haven't even figured it out, right? Because they're on their phone or something, and you're like, "Really?" I'm like, "I'm coming back later because you guys need to figure it out." So there are difficult customers. As customers, we need to realize there's more important things in life than getting your chips and salsa in 2 minutes. And at the same time, on the bar and server side, you need to realize, you're going to find, assholes that come in, and you just have to let it go. You can't bring that with you. They're going to be the way they are no matter what.
Yep. Well, awesome. I enjoyed our conversation, Dave. If the best way for people to reach you, barpatrol.net, therealbarman.com.
Yep, barpatrol.net. We're actually just doing you can do a test drive at Bar Patrol, test out the app and software for free. You can go there and just click on, try for free, and we already have an account set up. You can go in there and try it out, because the hardest thing is to kind of get the account set up in the beginning. But you can just go try it out first. So we're doing that. I got to ask, the orange branding that you have, is there a story behind that, or it's just memorable as hell?
A little bit. So I've I guess back to 2008 when I started my business, my buddy Jerry does t-shirts or golf shirts. I said, hey, I want you to make me company shirts, but I don't want my logo everywhere. My company's name was Driven Media Solutions. It still is, but that's how we market. And so he had a blue, a black, or I had the whole closet full of them because I wanted it to be easy. You wake up, khaki pants, that. Wake up, that. Well, I do a lot of video. And about 5 years ago, I was at a point where on Mondays, I would do 25 to 50 videos in a day. And by complete accident, I guess a couple Mondays in a row, I wore an orange shirt. And when you do 25 videos in a day and you do it 3 times with an orange shirt, you got 75 videos that get distributed over the next 2 months. I became the guy in the orange shirt, the restaurant marketing guy in the orange shirt. And so I would go to conferences, and I didn't know this until my coach one day, Billy Jean out in California, I showed up to his event. It was the fall of 2017. And I walked in the event. It was 350 people there. And he had given everybody a shirt, and he threatened everybody, wear the shirt tomorrow. And so I wore the shirt, and he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm wearing your freaking shirt. He goes, no, you only wear orange. I'm like, what do you mean I only wear orange? He's like, are you messing with me? I'm like, no. And he pulls out his phone, and he goes to my YouTube channel, and sure enough, everything was orange. He's like, Matt, everybody knows you. Whenever they call our company, and like, who's the guy that, who do you recommend with the restaurant marketing? And they're like, oh, Matt Plapp. Oh, the guy in the orange shirt. Yeah, okay, cool. And so now I take it to the extreme. I've got an orange car. I've got orange shoes every day, orange shirt. So it's there now. It's there to stay.
It's great. It's great branding. I love it.
Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Everybody go check out barpatrol.net, therealbarman.com, and I look forward to hearing more about what you got going on and checking it out more.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.